Thank you very much. It's an honor, quite an honor to be here. I'll try to speak loud enough that the mic catches it as I'm a bit above it. I tend to be that sometimes. Again, it's an honor to be here. My name is Kyle Turley, kid from Southern California, son of a truck driver. Decided to play football one year in high school and was that good at it that they decided to give me a scholarship to go to college. I had no intention of doing so, so that required me to spend the rest of my senior year while everyone was on half day making up all the classes that I needed to qualify for college and earn this scholarship. So along that way, had some amazing things happen, some unbelievable things, met some amazing people, did some things that very few people in the world have the opportunity to do. Along the same time, had some severe consequences from it. This is life. This is why we're here, in my opinion. We're here to live this life, to take on these challenges, to look at these mountains as only obstacles, and accomplish great things. The many things that were talked about earlier in this discussion today so far by Dr. Meshulam, who has been an unbelievable asset to this discussion and conversation for many, many years, to have brought us here today at Harvard. What an amazing opportunity. Thank you again, Dr. Meshulam, for your excellence and your perseverance. One of the most amazing parts in meeting this man, to sit and talk with him and see after so long his continued perseverance and persistence to tell this story. For obvious reasons that we don't know, that some people do know, they are intent on keeping this from us. And to have individuals like Dr. Meshulam to tell that story when he could easily be doing so many other things with his life is very inspiring. Again, I've had the opportunity to meet a number of people in this world through my fame and playing in the National Football League. But when people ask me those, moments and who did you meet and all these cool things that you got to do, this tops it. This is an unbelievable opportunity and an honor for me to be present personally in this moment at this time in our existence as humans. This is speaking about a medicine that will save many people, that has taken us this long to redirect ourselves because as we know, cannabis was not illegal in this country even until the 1970s when they went on their tirade and rampage against it at the same time of the birth of the pharmaceutical industry. And that is why I'm here today. Sometimes in life we have to examine and contemplate what it is we're here to do. And for some reason, I have been put here to be a part of this discussion. So it's a very emotional roller coaster to be on and to be standing here. Again, a kid from San Diego State University, wasn't supposed to make it to college, wasn't supposed to make it through college, wasn't supposed to be a first-round draft pick, drafted higher than all the guys in the SEC at my position, this kid coming out of San Diego State. And it was always because I searched for the answers within myself, within the energy that surrounds us as we understand it. And many of the scientific minds in here understand that our energy force resonates far outside of our physical structure. And so I tend to try to tap into that. And that ultimately brought me to where I am today and having the experience that I've had with cannabis to tell my story. That came along from a 20-year addiction to pharmaceutical medications because of trying to climb a mountain. Along that climb, having these amazing experiences, I had the opportunity to have intimate knowledge of the pharmaceutical industry and what it does for injury and illness. And I can honestly say through prolonged use of pharmaceuticals, these man-made concoctions that, in all fairness, have been fully intended to help, I think we've realized the consequence of that in our country as we see it daily playing out on our televisions with the devastation that is not just plaguing our athlete community, but plaguing our respective communities in our hometowns where we grew up, major metropolis cities, and not just anymore the excuse of you're from the ghetto. Cannabis has been a savior to me in that at my lowest point in life of despair and loss of who I was because of the inherencies in playing the sport of football, the damage done by the game, but more importantly, the damage done on top of that damage from these chemicals I was putting into my body. I knew I had to make a decision. As I was sitting on my couch one day, just returned from the Crosby Center down in San Diego, where I was receiving some care and going through therapy sessions for over 7 years. I went to neurologists, neuropsychologists, psychologists, counselors, therapy groups to try and understand what was happening to me as a young man when everybody says, "You look amazing," to know that inside I felt far from it was a very difficult thing to deal with. And that is the consequence of playing the game of football. We obviously have severe damage to our bodies when we get into car accidents or any other severe cases of trauma where our bodies are injured. But we do this on a repetitive basis, day in, day out. An average practice will be 60 to 80 plays, and at certain positions, that is 60 to 80 collisions equivalent to a massive car accident. And that was the position I informedly chose to play because of what this game has in store, which is why I'm here. I'm here for athletes. I started a campaign called Athletes Can because I believe athletes can change this conversation, take it away from this singular notion of, well, it could help these people. We have individuals that we expect to achieve and accomplish great things in our country. It not only spans for athletes, but through our military, where these are not, as it is appearing, certain powers are trying to position these choices for our children. These were not always ghetto choices. These were choices in the highest learning institutions to achieve these high honors. Playing football at Harvard was no different than playing football at any SEC school. Your ultimate goal is to make it to the National Football League. And I have many good friends that attended this school that have done so. And we have discussions about what is going on in our community. Harvard itself has a study right now that is taking place with the National Football League and the Players Association to analyze players' lives to hopefully help for future generations of playing this sport defeat against all of these things that are coming at us from every angle as it is in a football game. These efforts have come to an extent, a crossroads of how are we going to accept the inherencies in this sport and continue to encourage our children to play these sports and encourage their dreams to accomplish these amazing achievements when we know that inherently within these sports lies 9 to 10 times rate reception of Alzheimer's, dementia, ALS, Parkinson's disease, and 10 to 20 kids die every year in youth football, and it's a guarantee due to the lack of attention given to certain injuries that are inherent in the sport. You cannot have, unfortunately, with the human body, injury not occur while putting it in precarious situations of collision. In these sports, these contact sports, or as we're experiencing even into other sports, as we've experienced recently in the extreme sports community, a number of BMX riders are starting to kill themselves. So we look at it, myself, my friends, my colleagues, and we try to understand, how is this happening? Why is this happening? And we only need to look at ourselves, which is a very fortunate position to be in that I can sit to talk and tell my story, and it is something that is very detailed to anyone, even in the world of science, because I understand these things that are happening to me, the resolutions I've found in certain medicines through trial and personal error of taking these medicines, and that is not just in me and in my court. This is a relative ability for my teammates to speak to this as well. Post-football career, I went into music. I enjoy playing music. I play guitar and drums, and I sing. And so I went to Nashville, of course, to try and climb another mountain. Had the other opportunity to tour the country, playing my music coast to coast, and pretty much in every state for over 4 to 5 years, and had the opportunity to play with some amazing artists around this great country. And every opportunity I had to connect with an ex-teammate, I did so. And across the board, every one of us is suffering in ways that people wouldn't believe. It's hard to, I know, understand this, because you're sitting there looking at me like, this guy's got it together, and he's been able to speak about this and talk about this, articulate this. And the only reason I'm here today and being able to do this is because of cannabis. Thank you. Through my trial and error in taking medicine, I realized that there are certain things that I have in injury that medicine is good for, as far as common medicine, Western medicine. But in the long-term use of being addicted to these medications since 1996 until exactly a year ago this month, when I decided at a position of desperation to take a chance, because my daily living was my hands shaking so severe I couldn't stop it, to where I had suicidal thoughts constantly, homicidal thoughts constantly, rage to no end. And it was ruining my life, my family's life, and everyone around me. I knew there had to be something better. There must be something better. I knew along the way of using cannabis for the first time when I was in my second year in the National Football League, because I was always concerned about passing drug tests. And not ever having that be associated with me, as I saw many of my friends being suspended, lose scholarships in college because of their use of cannabis. I refrained. And then in my second year in the National Football League, was going through some very trying times. Had a teammate after practice one day suggest it to me as I was losing sleep, couldn't sleep, a lot of pressure in the National Football League, a young player. Going through trying to create a normal life with a wife and trying to start a family, etc. Very frustrating, very, very stressful to try and coordinate all those things and make all those things happen without having a lot of confusion, disruption for anyone. And then on top of that, trying to associate all these things to being normal in a very unnormal world. The transition from going from the real world to an NFL practice facility to an NFL game day is you have to have the switch, and you have to be able to turn it on and turn it off. Unfortunately, the off switch was neglected many times. It is something that, through what we understand now about the brain, has created the disruption that we have in our community that is causing suicide at an unprecedented rate. We can no longer stand for this. We can no longer allow a medicine that has been proven to protect our brains to be kept from us any longer. The things that you heard from Dr. Meshulam and McKernan are unbelievable in their science, but more unbelievable in the neglect of this information that has gone on for too long. Can we change this conversation? I think we can. I think that it's happening. I know it's happening. Our veteran community is crying for this. And that spans across our military and all of our veterans of these great achievements and mountains that we expect our children to continue to climb that have consequence. It is important for us to understand that. These things, you don't just wake up one day and become a professional football player or an elite force military service member. These are incredible accomplishments that come with incredible cost. And it is imperative, if we want to continue to raise our children in this great country and expect them to achieve these amazing accomplishments, that we find a medicine to help it. There's no doubt about it that cannabis can be that medicine. It has saved my life personally. 1 year ago today, I was a very different person and could not stand here in front of these lights with this pressure to speak, to be around these amazing people and stand here and tell my story. It's important that my story can add to this conversation as I speak for athletes across our world who at young ages are being stricken to severe addictive drugs like Oxycontin and Vicodin and Percocet and Loratab and Darvocet and Toradol and everything else that I can go on with all the slides and everything that have been given. These things do not help recover injury, especially neurocognitive injury. And no person, in my opinion, with a brain injury should ever be given anything but cannabis, as cannabis has saved my life, period. But has proven to me to resolve neurocognitive issues that psych meds like Wellbutrin, Depakote, and Zoloft, which I was on for 6 years, were only merely trying to do. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, but I more importantly urge you to continue this conversation outside of this room, outside of these hallways, and take this conversation to the mainstream, as that's where it has to be. These studies and all these things to many people are only going to occur with full legalization of cannabis, and that has to happen. There's no possible way for us to defeat the big machine with this medicine unless we have full legalization, and that is at your hands. That is at my hand. I implore every one of you, vote for cannabis every chance you get. Vote to legalize, vote for medical cannabis, wherever it is at on a ballot, and change this world, because cannabis will. There's no doubt about that. And athletes can save this conversation of suicide as we add our stories. If you're an athlete, even just a weekend Joe, please visit athletescan.org, start to add your story. I started one organization, the Gridiron Cannabis Coalition, and it became a football issue. This is a much bigger issue. Whether you're a weekend Joe that likes to go out and ride your mountain bike, when you fall, you're going to have an injury. And when you go to talk to your doctor, they're going to give you a medicine. They're going to give it to you freely and willingly in large doses. And those medicines, unfortunately, are not going to look like that, which is something that grows from the ground. This is a plant. We need to understand it. We need to explore it. We need to research and develop this as a medicine, but we need to immediately allow access as we understand the incredible fight that is against this information coming out. Thank you for your time. I appreciate being here.